Hello everyone. In today's lesson, we will be looking at what vertical farming is. We will read an article on vertical farming, which will cover some rudimentary aspects and important facts of vertical farming. Besides reading the article, I have also prepared a list of 10 vocabulary words. We will learn the definitions of the words, and then we'll do a vocabulary test to see if you have learned the meanings of the words. First, I'll read the article for you, and then we'll look at the new keywords that you will see in the article. What is vertical farming? Vertical farming is like a high-rise garden where plants grow upwards in stacked layers rather than spreading out in fields. It happens indoors, usually in city buildings, creating controlled environments for crops to grow without soil. Using methods like hydroponics or aeroponics, light, temperature, and nutrients are closely regulated, mimicking the perfect conditions for plants to thrive. This approach saves space and water, cuts down on transportation needs since it can be close to cities, and allows for year-round crop production. Researchers and companies are exploring this method to improve how to produce food and decrease the environmental impact of traditional farming. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, vertical farming could make food production more efficient, reduce water usage, and shrink the environmental impact of farming. But challenges like the high costs of setting up and running these systems, as well as their energy needs, still need solutions for it to become more common and financially practical. Now that we have read the article, you probably have an idea of what vertical farming is. But before we look more closely into the article, we should look at the vocabulary words that appear in the article, which you may find difficult. Now let's look at the new vocabulary words one by one. The first item is stack. Stack, here it is used as a verb. To stack means to place things on top of each other in layers or piles. For example, if you stack books on a shelf, it means that you put one book on top of the other. The second word on the list is crop. Crop means plants that are grown and harvested for food or for other use. There are some common crops. For example, if you talk about vegetables, then tomatoes are a type of crop. About fruits, apples are a type of crop. And for grains, wheat and rice are also crops. Items number 3 and number 4 refer to methods of growing plants without using soil. For item number 3, hydroponics, if you are familiar with English roots, you know hydro means water, and ponics is actually a Greek root which means to do something or to labor. So hydroponics means to grow plants using water. So hydroponic means to grow plants using water, and the water contains all the necessary nutrients for the growth of the plants. Item number 4 is aeroponics. Once again, if you are familiar with English root or roots, you know aero, A-E-R-O, means air. So aeroponics is a kind of method for growing plants without using soil. It is similar to hydroponics, But in aeroponics, water is not used to grow plants. Plants are grown in an environment where their roots are misted with a nutrient-rich solution. As you know, mist is like thin fog, which is formed by a mass of tiny water particles or drops, which resemble air. That's why aeroponics is translated into Chinese as qi geng or wu geng. Number 5, we have regulate. Regulate is actually a familiar word. To regulate means to control or to manage something. For instance, if you want to regulate temperature, you will have to adjust the temperature in a way so that you keep it at a certain level. In Chinese, it is 调节. Now we'll move on to item number 6. Item number 6 is also a verb. It is mimic. To mimic means to imitate or to copy something. Well, in the context of our article, mimic means to create conditions that are similar to the natural environment so as to help plants to grow. Item number 7 is thrive. Thrive is a verb. It means when something grows or develops well, usually in a healthy and a successful way. For example, if plants thrive, they have enough sunlight, they have enough water and nutrients so that the plants grow strong and healthy. Number 8 is cut down on. To cut down on means to reduce the amount or the frequency of something. For example, if you cut down on sugar, it means that you want to reduce the quantity of sugar that you consume. Number 9 is a noun as it is used in the article because impact can be used as a verb. Impact means the effect or influence that something has on a situation, a person, or a thing. It is used to describe the consequence or result of an action or an event. Impact can be positive or negative, although we frequently see the word impact used to indicate something that is negative. The last item, number 10, is practical. Practical is an adjective. We use practical to describe something that is sensible, realistic, or very useful in real life situations. Usually it refers to things that can be done or applied effectively in practical situations. In Chinese, it is 实际 or 实用. Now that we have examined the meanings and definitions of the 10 vocabulary items used in the article, we should find out whether you have learned the meanings of these items and whether you understand how they are used in the article. Now let's take the quiz together and use the correct word or phrase in the blank. Question number 1. In vertical farming, plants are cultivated without soil using methods such as, so as you remember, there are 2 methods mentioned in the article. These methods use water and the air to grow plants, not like the traditional way of growing plants, which uses soil. So the 2 methods are hydroponics and aeroponics, right? Correct. Now let's do exercise question number 2. Vertical farming is thought of as a, what kind of approach is it? Because this approach can maximize crop yield in limited spaces. Yield means production. To maximize crop yield means to produce the largest amount of crop. So this is a practical approach, which means very useful in a real situation. Question number 3. By controlling environmental factors, vertical farming allows plants to blank and flourish even in limited spaces. So the blank, the word to be used in the blank is actually a synonym for flourish. Flourish means to grow healthy and strong. So you remember the verb thrive also means to grow, for plants to grow strong and healthy, right? So the answer to this question is thrive. Question number 4. In vertical farming, growers closely blank factors like light and temperature to create ideal conditions for plants. So as you remember, there are some factors that are controlled so as to create ideal conditions for plants to grow. So the meaning of the word to be used in this blank is similar to control, and on the list, what you find is regulate. So the answer is regulate, to control, 调节. Question number 5. Vertical farming involves growing plants in a blank, with layers of vegetables stacked upwards instead of spread out in fields. So layers, like in a stack. So the answer is stack, but here stack is used as a noun. When things are placed on top of one another, it is a stack. Now let's move on to question number 6. Question number 6. One advantage of vertical farming is its ability to help blank transportation needs by being closer to urban areas. So you find vertical farms in cities. So this type of farming helps to reduce or to cut down on transportation needs, right? So the answer is to cut down on. Question number 7. Vertical farming's positive blank on food production and environmental sustainability is noteworthy. So we are talking about the influence or the effect of vertical farming. We're talking about a positive impact on food production and environmental sustainability is noteworthy. Question number 8. The aim of controlled environments in vertical farming is to blank the ideal conditions necessary for plants to grow healthy. So the environments for plants to grow are controlled. It is actually not a natural environment. So the purpose or the aim of the controlled environments is to imitate or to mimic the ideal conditions necessary for plants to grow healthily, right? So the answer is mimic. Now let's move on to the last question, question number 9. Farmers cultivate a variety of blanks such as tomatoes, lettuce, and strawberries in vertical farming systems. So these are foods that can be grown in large quantities and be harvested when they are ripe. So these different types of vegetables and fruits are called crops. So the answer is crops. That's the end of our vocabulary test. I'm sure you have done a good job. Now that we have read the article once, we have also reviewed the meanings and definitions of some items, some vocabulary items that appeared in the article. It is time for you to read the article one more time. I'm sure you'll have a better understanding of what the article is about regarding vertical farming. Before we look at some comprehension questions, we should now summarize the article. The main idea of the article is that vertical farming, which involves growing plants indoors, as you know, the plants are grown in stacked layers. This method offers a controlled and innovative approach to agricultural production. It emphasizes the benefits of this method, such as saving space and water, reducing transportation needs, and allowing year-round crop production. Moreover, it highlights the potential of vertical farming to improve food production efficiency, to decrease environmental impact, but it also addresses the challenges that may prevent its adoption and the high cost to set up this type of farming. In the following, I have provided an outline of all the important points that you have read in the article. Before we do a comprehension exercise, let's re-examine the important points in the article. First, let's look at the definition and process of vertical farming. So these are the important facts about vertical farming as mentioned in the article. A. Vertical farming is described as a high-rise garden. B. It is indoor cultivation. Usually it takes place in city buildings. C. It has controlled environments for soil-less crop growth. And the two popular methods used are hydroponics or aeroponics. D. Light, temperature, and nutrients are regulated so as to imitate the ideal conditions for plants to grow. Next, let's look at the advantages of vertical farming. A. Space-saving nature due to stacked layers. B. Reduction in water usage. C. Decreased transportation needs by proximity to cities. Proximity means closeness, which means the farms are located near or in the cities. D. Year-round crop production capabilities. So plants can be produced. The yield of the crops can last all year long. The purpose and exploration of vertical farming. A. Improvement in food production and environmental impact reduction. B. Research by organizations like FAO and scientific studies supporting the efficiency of this type of farming. And C. Enhanced food production efficiency, reduced water usage, and environmental impact mitigation. Mitigation simply means reduction. But there are some challenges or disadvantages of vertical farming. So we'll look at the challenges of vertical farming. So what are the challenges? A. High costs associated with setup and operation. So a person or a business that is interested in vertical farming may have to invest a lot of money in the beginning. B. Energy needs requiring solutions for widespread adoption and financial viability. So for vertical farming to work, it may consume a lot of energy, and also a lot of money has to be invested in order for the vertical farming to run smoothly. Okay, we have finally come to the end of this lesson. To see if really understand the meaning of the article and to find out if you are familiar with the basic aspects and some important facts of vertical farming, let's do an exercise on comprehension of the article. We have prepared 5 comprehension questions for you. These are multiple choice questions. Let's look at the questions one by one. Question number 1. Where does vertical farming usually take place? Well, according to the article, it happens where? Does it happen or take place in large fields? You remember that vertical farming, you can find it usually indoors and in city buildings, right? So the answer is B, indoors in city buildings. Question number 2. What popular methods are used in vertical farming to grow crops without soil? So as you remember, there are 2 methods. One method uses water, and the second method uses mist or air. So if you are familiar with the English roots, you know one method is called hydroponics, which means using water to grow plants. And the second method is aeroponics, which means using air or mist to grow plants. Question number 3. How does vertical farming contribute to reducing transportation needs? So this is also a simple question because vertical farms are usually located near or in cities. So transportation needs are reduced because the farms are close to cities. Question number 4. What is the primary reason, the main reason researchers and companies are exploring vertical farming? Why are researchers, why are companies trying to find out more about vertical farming? They try to find out more about possibilities or about solutions to deal with difficulties in vertical farming. Why do they want to explore vertical farming? Because they want to do 2 things. Number 1, to improve food production, to increase food production efficiency, and also to mitigate or to reduce environmental impact, right? So the answer is C. Question number 5, which is also the last question. What challenges are mentioned in the passage regarding vertical farming? So you probably remember very well, there are 2 things that may hinder the development of vertical farming. One being the fact that it is very expensive to set up the operation of vertical farming. And second, maybe there is a lot of energy that is required in order for the vertical farming to run. So the answer is C. High setup and operation costs and energy needs. Okay, now that we have finished this lesson on vertical farming, I hope you have learned something useful and you have a better idea of what vertical farming is. Before we leave, I want to show you 3 popular methods that are used in vertical farming. They are as follows. 3 popular types of vertical farming. Number 1, hydroponic vertical farming. So as you remember, hydroponic vertical farming uses nutrient-rich water, and these systems grow plants without soil. The plants are grown in layers that are stacked vertically, and this image shows this type of farming. The second type of vertical farming that is very popular is aeroponic vertical farming, and you are familiar with this type of farming because we have looked at the definition of this word. Aeroponic vertical farming or farms are similar to hydroponics, but plants are grown in an air or mixed environment. The plants receive nutrients from a misting system. So the 2 images show this type of farming. And lastly, the third popular type of vertical farming is called aquaponic vertical farms or farming. Aqua in English root also means water or sea. So this is actually a mixture of aquaculture, which means fish farming, and hydroponics. This type of farming utilizes fish waste as nutrients for plants, while the plants clean and filter the water for the fish. This is also a very popular farming method, as you may find in some suburban areas near Sanxia and the Yingge in New Taipei City. Okay, so this is really the end of the lesson. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson. See you next time.